and then we lose millions and millions of voters because they didn't quite get it right or they moved. And if you move in most states, now you can't vote. You know, depending on when you moved. One thing after another. We're not going to accept it. We're not going to accept billionaires. Koch brothers alone are going to put almost $1 billion into this next election. And we got union people, and I love them. Believe me, we argue, but I love them all. Just like we do here. Who believe, well, we'll just raise more money. We'll be on the board of the super PAC also. That's delusional. That's delusional. That's as insane as, you know, anyway, you could all make up your own definitions of insane. But it's insane. It's totally insane. I don't care what union we're from and how big it is and how many millions of dollars we're going to spend. That one family, 2 brothers, is going to spend more than all of the big unions, I got to keep catching myself here, put together. And yet we can just beat our chests. I got to go on Air Force One. I got to go to a state dinner. I'm fed up with that. That's what I'm personally sick and tired of. Right? And believe me, that does go on at the top levels in this movement. We need to, and that's why I want to be back with all of you, and I am. So, the good news, again, in the little booklet, but we don't need the booklet for it, is that movement building is going on. And we got a chart in here for those who got one, like a prize, on page 13. And that chart on page 13, you don't need the chart. It says, well, what if we add up all of our natural allies? Now, they're not necessarily our allies yet, but they're our natural allies. So what if we add up folks who are in civil rights groups? How many of them are there? And what if we add up people who want to be citizens, who can't get through the hurdles that we throw in their way? That's immigration. Glad to talk about that. We are going to have a conversation. I'm going to wrap up in 5 minutes, and hopefully we'll engage everybody. Because some of our own members say, well, why are you involved in immigration? Because we're missing 20 million votes there. These are working class people. And I'm happy to talk about my own story. Those relatives, I grew up with 5 adults in that row house in North Philadelphia, and they weren't even the immigrants. It was the ones before them. But these were not Nobel Prize winners. You know, when Trump makes a story of who were the Mexicans who crossed, they were, you know, he disparaged them. Well, I don't know where your all families were from, right? And some of us were dragged here as slaves, our ancestors. But in my case, you know, they weren't the greatest people, frankly. Now, hopefully we've now become the greatest people. I like to believe that when I talk to my kids about it. But, and again, you don't want to hear my family story from 125 years ago. But the point being, it's no different than these immigrants, just slightly different color. And we need to wake up to that. And it doesn't mean we should have open borders and push down our wages. Those are complicated questions. The people who are here and they're working here for 10 years, just like the people of past generations, they need to be able to vote. They need to be able to join a union. They need to be able to feel like, hey, I'm a full participant in this country. Otherwise, we're in for trouble. So on this chart, we add up all those groups. Students who are choked with, we have $1 trillion in student debt. $1 trillion. And the interest rates are twice what I pay on my apartment. I pay like 3.5%, they pay like 7%. That ain't right either, and how does that even happen? Except that people are making profits off of students instead of having a system where we're encouraging people. No, let's discourage them. They end up going to college and they have $100,000 in debt when they're done in a 4-year college. It's disgusting. Students are our allies. Faith-based groups and churches are our allies. So movement building just means, how do we organize ourselves? You know, imagine it's Charleston or Columbia or anywhere else. It's harder to do in certain areas down here. Who are our allies? And how do we more systematically say, we're going to dig in with them day in and day out. And we're going to build something broader. And we're going to have a common story, I call it. Common story. About here's where we are now in America. Here's our strengths. Here's our weaknesses. Here's what we're aiming for. And how do we do it together?